version, Jesus just sort of takes his message and flings it overboard for people to lose completely. And after a while, they do lose it, just as he ought to have expected. Okay? It's an anticlimax, that version of it. But the real story has no anticlimax, thank God. I hope you'll enjoy thinking about with me here in conclusion what really happened. What was really going on during the age of the great apostasy? And this is when you hear some version of this story, this is what you need to tell your friends. What was the great apostasy really like? Spiritual Israel, the church, conquered the Roman Empire without shedding a drop of blood other than her own, just as Isaiah had prophesied 500 years before. A historian named Bernard Otten wrote this: 300 years that contest lasted. Many thousands of followers of the crucified Nazarene sealed their fate with a martyr's death. But when the one-sided conflict ceased, the blood-stained sword had fallen from the mailed hand of pagan Rome, and the successor of St. Peter sat upon the throne of the Caesars. Second, the church age is the greatest missionary age in history. The age of this supposed great apostasy was the age when the entire whole continents of nations fell like so many dominoes. Israel had pounded her head for 2,000 years in her little corner of the world, and nobody came. The Christian gospel was preached, and the entire world collapsed in front of it. And if any of you, I don't know, evangelicals or former evangelicals, anybody who has been involved with the missions movement, who believes, like I do, that God's heart is a heart for missions, you should stand in awe of the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church in this great apostasy, this was the greatest missionary age in history. The Near East came first, then Europe and North Africa, Russia and Armenia, New Worlds in Canada and South America. This so-called great apostasy was an age when idols were broken down all over the earth. The name of Christ was first called by the Britons, the Germans, the Aztecs. Think of that. So think about that when you think about the great apostasy. Think about what really happened. In the third category we talked about, the Lord's words really have never departed from the mouths of our teachers, just as was prophecy. God's new, pure sacrifice is offered every day. Was offered in this spot just a few hours ago. This spot that used to be woods in the middle of a raw, barbaric new world. The sacrifice was offered here, just as Malachi said it would be. The Apostle John said this: "Hereby ye know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesseth that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is of God. And every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God." That is the spirit of Antichrist. Well, think of this. During this so-called great apostasy, many of the splinter churches had all sorts of denial that Christ had come in the flesh. The Greek church, not pointing a blanket of condemnation on our Greek brethren, but in this age of the great apostasy, even the Greeks will tell you, the Greek church during this period of the great apostasy had Arians on the throne of the apostles. It had Monophysites on the throne of the apostles. Then monothelites